All right, Alec, how's it going?
Spooky clown, scare me!
Yes, it's the
And
movie that's sweeping the nation. In
wait, we're
fact,
not talking about it too?
yes, It Chapter 2,
Yeah,
which, from Pestra's recommendation.
that's right. Yeah, he did. That's
No,
right.
Joker.
Yes, Joker.
Joker.
Todd Phillips, Joker.
Which, honestly, I didn't have any interest in until I started hearing people talk about it. And I was like, oh, controversial. Talk. People are talking about it a lot. I'm like, all right, I'm on board. That's all I need.
You just needed talking points and controversy. That's what you
Yeah.
needed to see this movie. Well, I'm not gonna lie. I wasn't like hugely sold on like the early marketing of this movie. I thought it was
Hmm.
just kind of strange. But Joaquin Phoenix being attached to the movie kind of made me a little interested because I know he's a man that like puts basically his all into his films. So I was definitely interested in seeing kind of how he was going to portray the role, how the whole film was going to work. Because DC films are kind of a mixed bag, you could say. Mostly on the I don't really enjoy them side.
Yeah.
To put it nicely, I think most of their movies are just garbage. But um,
I haven't watched a lot of the recent ones, like Batman vs Superman. I never watched that.
you didn't you
The
didn't you didn't miss much, trust me.
Aquaman,
Because
Justice League, like those kinds of movies. I didn't really watch. I watched Wonder Woman and Suicide Squad are like the most recent ones I watched.
okay, so Wonder Woman was really
And yeah,
good.
one
I
of
really
those
enjoyed
movies
that one
was
a lot.
good. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. One of those movies that you mentioned was a really good one. Of course, there's a Christopher Nolan Batman films, but those are kind of their own thing, particularly in the light of the new like DCEU or whatever you want to call it, with the Man of Steel and so on and so forth. This film is very not really even attached to those at all. It feels like, I mean, it kind of is. It's its own thing. I mean,
Yeah.
so okay, I guess I want to ask you, what were your like first impressions like upon seeing this movie? Like how would you baseline describe it to somebody, I guess?
Oh, that's tough. Yeah, I
Because
remember when I came out of the movie theater, I was like, after I watched with my brother, and I was like, I just need to think about this movie for a while. I'm not sure what I really really think right now. I'm like, I know
so
it's good, but
yeah.
I don't
S-
know like my like nuanced opinions on it yet. I had to like sit on it for a while.
right. The way I like to describe it to people who I talk to they're like, "Oh, they'll bring in a conversation like, "Oh, I saw Joker." And they're like, "Oh, what'd you think about it?" And I was like, it's a film. Like it's one of those rare instances of like it's like actually a movie. It's not just like a theme park ride. Like I love the Marvel movies. We've talked obviously our first video was about Avengers Endgame. I love those movies. But um there's they're kind of you kind of know what you're going to get ultimately, even though they're slightly different genres of film.
Yeah.
You kind of know you're kind of you know what you're sort of in for. Um this movie was like is a film. Like someone had a vision, they wrote a script, they filmed it the way they wanted to, they portrayed things the way they wanted to, and they edited it together and made a film, like an actual good piece
Yeah,
of media.
it's like film first and comic book character far second. It's like
Yeah,
it doesn't feel
exactly.
like if you didn't know about what the Joker was, you wouldn't assume this is based on a comic book at all, And
Right.
it's kind of its own depiction, like obviously very different from recent DC films, like not even close to how Wonder Woman or Suicide Squad, which are both radically different in
Yeah.
how they're done, but this one's a whole other realm.
Yeah.
Handled a lot more carefully. I wish I could have gone into it completely blind
Hmm.
and not heard that it was like a big, like people were, what I heard were like it was really, people were really impressed with it, and also heard that some people thought it was like controversial, and then there was a lot of gore involved. So I wish I could have gone in blind, not knowing it would be like talked about so much, because
Hmm.
my expectations would have been lower, and it would have been a lot more, even more shocking to watch it.
Yeah. Well, I think one thing that's kind of funny, and I know a lot of other commentators have pointed this out, but like how all of the buzz like before this movie is going to empower white terrorism, and people are going to be shot because based on the heroic portrayal they do the Joker in this movie. This
Hmm.
movie's not about anything about that at all, and it has nothing really to do with any of that at all.
Um, well, yeah.
And like it has to me it's more like I just think it like all the fur and overreaction to everything about it was just like completely more or less unfounded, kind of like they didn't this just because I don't know, maybe it's just because of like the sensitivity because of the Aurora shooting, which that in and of itself was horribly mishandled by the media, and by the people who were there at it, who were saying that the guy claimed to be the Joker, even though he just went to it because it was like a huge opening weekend,
Right.
and that's why he opened fire and everything. So I mean, kind of by its very nature, it's going to have forced controversy upon it. Even though this movie is like fairly restrained, I would say, like it's obviously it's very violent, it's very disturbing, but I don't think most of the stuff that they're saying, that radical white incels were gonna rally behind this movie. Why? I don't. I just.
Well,
It was. Well, here's the thing: is that people who hadn't seen the movie were saying this, and it just. I don't. I don't get it. I don't get why there was such a huge con. I mean, I do, but it's also I don't. I get it because you gotta get clicks. You gotta talk about stuff when people are reacting to something. You gotta have a say. You gotta get clicks. I get it, but like, yeah, no. This
well,
movie is.
see, I'll say I didn't look into any specific like reviews or anything after I watched it. I just watched it
Mhm,
last night. So all I've seen were some tweets just like in passing, and I didn't even look that
mhm.
intently into it. But I'm assuming the perspective that people take is that it like romanticizes Joker as a character and that kind of.
But I don't think it does. That's the thing.
But
If you watch them,
what
if you
people are
watch,
saying? Like,
I think, well, that's what they were afraid of. But I don't think the movie actually says that. I think the movie portrays him as a tragic individual, but I don't think that the movie is necessarily saying that's okay. Like it's more of showing, isn't it sad that people with mental illness feel that the only way out that to get out of their situation because of the situation that they're ended up in thanks to lack of government control, lack of any sort of other helping hand from anyone. Isn't it sad? And isn't it something that maybe we should try to do better at? Isn't it sad that the only thing that they look to is violence to get out of where they've been situated? Because we're presented the movie is very much told from Joker's perspective, or from sorry, remember Arthur's perspective.
mm-hmm.
Um, and to us, that's presented. At least this is what I got from the film. Presented to us as the only way out of his situation that he can see is a violent means. He even considers suicide as his only as a means out. He contemplates that a few times. He
Mm-hmm.
actually towards the lead up of the movie, that's almost looking like what he's going to do. Um, but that doesn't end up happening. He takes his violence and anger out on other people.
I would say
Mm-hmm.
even further than just the mental illness from his perspective. I
Mm-hmm.
would say also the big part of it is like the whole mob mentality, and those were some of the
Mm-hmm.
most disturbing scenes for me to watch. Were like when everybody would just gang up and start like being violent, and
Mm-hmm.
I was like, dang, because that's a lot of people. That's not like
Yeah, and a lot of that is sort of the classism kind of angle of the movie,
yeah.
where it definitely has like a poor versus rich type of angle at it, and I don't I don't necessarily think that the movie does a good job handling the topics with any sort of nuance. nuance. The movie when so my initial reactions for the movie were basically this. It's a fantastic performance by Joaquin Phoenix in an okay movie, kind of. And for the most part, that still kind of stands. I think thinking about the movie a little bit more, I think I've found more kind of more to sort of enjoy about it. But
Right.
there's the script isn't really a very strong part of the movie. I didn't feel. I mean, there are lines in the movie where if they were said by literally any other actor, it would have come across as like comically awful.
Hmm.
But because we understand Arthur Fleck so well as a character, it's gold. Like the line that's in all the trailers, the "I used to think my life was a tragedy, but now I think my life is a comedy," is a
Hmm.
terrible line. It's so dumb, but he says it with such genuineness that it's like you feel it. You feel what he's going for with it, and like I think that's just a mark for how good he did in the role. Like
Yeah.
how he brought breadth to the character and depth to the character, I
Like
think.
if we had this movie but with Jared Leto instead,
Oh my
we have a
gosh.
different story.
No. Yeah, everyone would be talking about it for very different reasons, I think.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
he was really good. I mean, yeah, if we didn't have him, it would be a much different story. But I think, like, even when on paper, the movie is not the greatest in terms of a plot, like you said. I always found myself just so engaged the whole time. Still, it was
He's
like,
very, very engaging. Yeah. Like all the little bits and pieces of that like add up to his character, like the like uncontrollable laughing thing, like just kind of makes you feel sort of bad for him.
uh,
And then of course it's a little vague as to whether or not he
yeah,
actually is or not. I tend to lean towards that. I think that is because that is a legitimate condition that people have.
it is, yeah.
Um,
But
it's and it, yeah,
there was
it's
there was that one scene in particular where he just like turned it off instantly, where he was like
yeah,
walking down the hall and he's like laughing and then just boom, straight
yeah,
face. I was like, oh, was that him
yeah,
making it up all along? But then, like, it didn't make sense for him when he was doing his comedy act to be doing
yeah.
that. So
I feel like yeah.
also, he's a
Um,
great comedian too. Great
oh
comedian.
yeah, yeah. Great
He
comedian.
had
Yeah,
one
that's
good
why.
one joke in there I really liked actually. It was something about like people always told me I could never or always laughed at me thinking I could be a comedian when I grew up. Well, who's laughing now? And there's, but it was so awkward that whole. There's so many awkward parts of this movie.
Oh yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot of
See, there's some like comedic parts of this movie, but never anything I like, laughed out loud about. You know,
yeah.
I was always
Same.
like still like disturbed. But then there were people in the theater that were like laughing out loud. I'm like, what? Like,
Yeah,
ugh.
there wasn't really any like I was in a relatively sparse theater. There was probably only maybe like 20, 25, 30 other people there. There's like little bits of laughter. I did laugh, kind of like chuckle out loud a little bit at the one scene where sort of once Arthur Fleck has sort of become Joker and those two clowns come visit him.
Hmm.
And he of course shoots the big clown who sort of framed him.
See,
Um,
that's actually
and then
the scene I was thinking of.
the scene where the little person clown was couldn't reach the lock.
Yeah,
That kind of made me laugh because I was like, this is just like this is so the juxtaposition here is amazing.
but I couldn't bring
And
myself.
also
I
just
thought it was so weird to laugh out loud to that because it was like, dang, but
it's
it's still
oh
tense.
oh yeah, it's still
And
sad
it's
and like
still
tense and stuff
disturbing.
because
Yeah,
like you don't know if he's gonna turn on this guy.
yeah.
But then he says to him, "Well, you were always nice to me." So
So
like,
it's like, okay, Joker's a great
there you
guy,
go.
good guy, Joker.
Yeah, good guy. You know, he's just sitting there. He's got blood all over his face from the guy he just stabbed
There's just something about
repeatedly.
this movie. There's no other movie I can think of that made me feel this way when I was watching it, where it's like kind of disturbing the whole way through.
Yeah, and I think one of the major things that I loved about this movie, and I think one of the reasons why it was so off-putting was the score was
Oh yeah,
so effective at just making you feel
yeah.
just something's not right the whole time, and it's very effective, especially like mm,
not only the instrumental scores, but like the smile.
oh yeah,
There's and like
yeah,
even just Frank Sinatra in general too. Those kinds of music from the times
yeah,
really
from
worked
like the
well.
50s and stuff, 40s and 50s music. Yeah, it was just very, yeah, very off-putting. I agree. Like one of the standout scenes for me, I was, well, many standout scenes. Every scene that he's dancing in
You like
is
those?
amazing.
Okay.
Yeah, no, they're
Yeah.
all great. They're all like, yeah, I mean, you just get a sense of like how he feels like he's feels. It's almost like he feels the most like him or something. It's almost like that. Those are the moments where he feels the most free from everything, free
Hmm.
from the medication that he's on, free from the being beaten down by the man, so to say. When he takes it's a lot of times when he's taking control into his own hands, which is unfortunately most of the time is in a violent, viscerally violent manner.
And it's I
And so
mean,
like
and
the
it's great the build up because there's so much of the movie in the beginning where there's like no violence whatsoever,
yeah.
and then it's like when it starts happening, it just like starts snowballing. It's
Oh,
like okay, everybody is dying now. Okay.
yeah. Oh, it's very effective. When the movie is violent and when it's not. There's actually like beat for beat, it's like it's not hugely violent throughout. There's just like several moments of like extreme like
Yeah.
whoa kind of moments, and I think that's kind of what makes those moments impact more. I think
Yeah.
'cause if it was just like
The
gore
it's
fest, that
definitely not for the faint of heart though. Yeah. Like
no,
I
no,
don't think
I
my
don't think so.
mom would enjoy this movie at all
No,
because she found it
I
violent.
got no when I went to see that. I told my parents I was going to see it, and they were like, "Yeah, we have like no interest in seeing it." I was like, "No, I don't think you guys would like this movie." Yeah,
Yeah.
when I got back, I was like, "Yeah, you guys wouldn't like it at all. Definitely
It's
not.
like a
Definitely not their
certain
speed."
kind of twisted individual to
Yeah,
enjoy
me, I really
it.
enjoyed this movie.
But I will say,
Yeah,
on top
so
of the mob mentality thing, I did
yeah,
find it a little weird that it rallied so many people in person like that. Because I mean, we've seen that's what was kind of disturbing about a lot of the scenes in this movie because it was like
mhm,
there was some crazy, outrageous stuff, but there was also stuff where it's like, okay, that could very easily happen,
mhm,
and stuff like that does happen in our world, and it's
yeah,
like it's weird to watch from this angle,
yeah,
and
yeah. I felt
it,
the
but like we don't have those kinds of like public people coming together, um,
riots.
in support of like this terrorist figure, in
Yeah,
such a in like the middle of the United States kind of thing. So
yeah.
it was very weird to me. I felt like it's almost like in Death Note where there are people that support Kira, but it's like 99% is online and through the internet. So that's
Mhm.
how I feel like this would have happened in reality. Not have like so many people. There's so many people just
Well, this is taking place in the 80s, though. Remember, and
sure
specifically in Gotham City.
Gotham
So in a
City,
place
yeah.
that isn't real.
But it's like there was really that many people. There was a lot of people that were just like all on board with this guy because he kills
Well,
rich people, and it's like, yeah,
well, it
kill rich people.
well, no, well, it wasn't just because of that though. The riots were sparked because Thomas Wayne called out the poor population, the destitute and the people, and he called them clowns.
Yeah,
That's what he said, and that is that's what really started to spark the riots. And the thing about the riots too, those built throughout the movie too. They were, I mean, they were still kind of big, but they were relatively isolated, smaller scale type of areas. You see like a couple people getting arrested here and there. Then you start to see like a few like more demonstrators until like the last one where it's just this huge one where it's gained all of this support because everyone's feeling repressed, beaten down by the rich of Gotham who thinks they're all clowns while we are clowns. That's why they all dress up like that.
yes, the
That
clown
that
lifestyle, man. Oh.
that is to me that's the most realistic part of the movie, I think. I I I think that like it scarily realistic because like that's how like a lot of people feel a lot of times. And I don't
It might feel that way, but we haven't seen it
No, we
like this.
haven't. No, we haven't seen, obviously not.
And this guy is killed, like, he hasn't killed tons of people, and it's not like he's killed select people here and there, and then they're all on board, like, kill the rich. And then he kills Murray live on his talk show, and they're like, yeah, all right, let's trash the city. And then this cop car is just strolling along and gets wrecked. Like, you can't even take someone safely to prison in this environment. It's like,
Yeah.
wow, that
Well,
really.
that's after everything breaks loose, though, because that there is a build in the movie. It doesn't just unrealistically jump to let's all get on board with this guy. It's a kind of a slow burn through the movie. You definitely, I mean, definitely there are people that jump on board right away, but I think it's a little slower build up than that. Um, I mean, I do agree that like it's what this is what is the message of this, right? Like what's that ultimately saying? It's kind of vague as to like as to
Yeah,
that, like the overall messaging of the like what are the riots saying?
well, that's
I will
what
agree with
that's
you there.
yeah,
It's
that's
too vague.
and that's something I could see people having a problem with in
Yeah.
terms of how they're depicting it, because it's like there's no positive message really in this movie. It's like you can take away from all this negative stuff, be like, okay, we should not be treating people poorly, like people with mental illnesses. We should be treating that better. But it's like it's
Yeah.
not the theme is not resolved in any positive way. It's like still it ends with like Joker being hoisted up by these clowns, and then kind
Yeah.
of resolves itself. He like kills another person, and then it's like there's no good takeaway from it. It's just like you leave the movie theater being like, ugh.
Other than we do have that sliver of hope because Bruce Wayne is there. So we know he'll rise up
Yeah.
eventually and bring things to justice. But it's interesting because of how this takes the complete different angle of that story. It's basically the inverse of the Batman story,
Mm-hmm.
right? He Arthur Fleck kills his mother and is fighting against the rich because they're oppressing all of us. The rich are kind of they're not put in a very positive light, and then you have Batman, who's a billionaire, trillionaire character who's beating up like the thugs, so the these poorer people. So it's almost like it's the inverse of that.
Mm-hmm.
So uh, I kind of liked it from that angle. I also another thing that I liked is how restrained they were with that too. Sure, there was like things here and there where it was like Arthur's mother was saying that she had a relationship with Thomas Wayne and that he's Thomas Wayne's son, and that whole kind of arc of the movie is kind of where the movie to me started hitting its stride a little more because it up to that point it was kind of just normal beat for beat like guy down on his luck and is now gonna take revenge against everyone. But with the whole thing with his mother to me was that added a lot more of the depth to the movie. Because that's where a lot of his ultimately like where a lot of his mental illness stems from, being like beaten and horribly mistreated and neglected as a child, and then being forced to take all these medications prodded by his mother, who is delusional.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
And it's kind of like his whole life is a
yeah.
lie. Like even the one stable thing that he thought he knew was his mother, and
Hmm.
that gets taken away. So he's like, all right, that's kind of like what is the breaking point for him.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I also really liked the kind of twist partway through where the woman in the apartment
Yeah.
wasn't.
I
Oh, because I was gonna say when I saw that happen, I was like, so he followed her home and she was into it. Okay,
yeah.
all right.
Well, and here's the great thing about the movie, because you're following Arthur, you kind of just are like, okay, okay. You just sort of take it for granted, and you're just like, they're in a relationship now. Like it's so bizarre,
I
and then it
know.
makes complete
Yeah,
sense. But the thing is like I would also kind of didn't see it coming.
yeah. I
Weirdly,
didn't. I
like
didn't either.
I thought I would, I thought something like a twist like that you would, but I've heard of other people who are fairly like I've watched some of the reviews where people that I would have expected would see that coming were like they were blindsided by it too, and I was like, I'm glad I'm not the
Hmm.
only one.
Yeah, I definitely was
um,
blindsided too. I was ready to come on and criticize the fact that this relationship formed out of him stalking her. And I was
yeah,
like, what is this relationship?
and it was
And
just it was a delusion.
yeah, and which makes a lot of
He
sense.
which because we'd seen a hint of that earlier in the movie too. That amazing. It's one of my favorite early scenes in the movie is where he's sitting watching the late night show, Robert De Niro's talk show with his mother, and then it kind of cuts to like him being in the audience. So it's your mind goes, oh, he must have gotten on one time, and he's sort of saying he used to stand up, and Murray talks to him and brings him down. He's like, come on, you're like a I wish I had a son like you type
Hmm.
thing, and you're like, and then it sort of pans out, and you realize that oh, he's just kind of imagining that happened. He's just sort of lost in a delusion about that Murray loves him type of thing.
Yeah,
Um,
and that was great when like ultimately he ends up on the show and everything, and
hmm
then the punchline to that joke, and there's kind of like that tension waiting for him if he's gonna do the thing with the gun,
hmm
because you get that knock knock joke ready,
Yeah.
and it's just like this weird, weird tense segment, and then like Murray is just like straight up interviewing him now that he's like confessing to being the killer, and it's like okay, let's roll with this.
Yeah.
It's like dang, nowadays that would it'd never happen. You're gone instantly.
Yeah.
We're gonna cut
Yeah.
cut the fees, but he's like no.
Yeah, the movie takes place in the early 80s, yeah. And that's actually another I think it's supposed to be 1981 specifically.
Okay.
But that's actually another detail that I really liked about this movie. How because this is before like the city cleanup reforms that happened in the mid to late 80s.
Mm-hmm.
So the cities looks like trash.
Yeah.
It looks awful, and I love how the movie looks. It just looks gross and grimy and like a really really good seedy Gotham City.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and props to that. I honestly don't think Gotham City in particular has been depicted as well on film, maybe ever. At least in my opinion. The I mean the Tim Burton ones are cool. They kind of have they definitely feel like a gothic kind of almost like a gothic horror
Yeah. Which yeah.
set. Um, the Nolan ones feel very they do have kind of their grimy and their grittiness, but it's like a classy sort of grittiness, if that makes any sense, like a British gritty. I don't know if that makes any sense, but like that's definitely you definitely can tell it's a Christopher Nolan film if you've seen his other movies.
Mm-hmm.
Just based on the look of the movie. I think that's a good Gotham too, but and then I don't even care about the
Suicide Squad.
newer no better yeah.
Yeah, it
Um
doesn't count. This
yeah,
is this is
no.
much more true to life. Like,
Yeah.
not super exaggerated and romanticized version of a city. It's like this is just a city, and it's called
Yeah.
Gotham.
Yeah. And it's gross and here's your population. Here's the poor. Here's the down and out. I mean, so yeah, I did it's funny because I keep thinking about I don't know if we should move already to ratings if you have any more really to say about the movie.
I'm still not 100% on a score, but
Okay.
do you have one?
So I do, and I've had the score basically since I saw it, and it has not deviated despite me actually probably thinking more positively about the movie. My score is pretty much the same.
Okay.
This is like a 7.5 for me.
Okay.
Um, I think it's like a 10 performance in a 5 movie. And that kind of balances kind of evenly to that. Because I think like we've sort of established, I think the script isn't great. I think the themes are a little too vague and broad to be able to say like I'm not sure what the film is exactly saying other than kind of what we've already talked about.
Yeah, and like I've heard a lot of people describe it as, or a couple of people I've seen describe it as like beautiful. This movie is beautiful, but I'm like, okay, like it was really beautifully done, but
Yeah,
what's the beauty in it? Like, what are we taking away from it? It's
Yeah.
like beautiful. Yes, Joker is beautiful.
Like, is it beautiful? I mean, it's
Yeah,
beautiful in the sense. I guess it's beautiful in the sense that like it's not shying away from the ugliness of reality. That it can get really really bad for people,
yeah, but it's like
but it's not like I don't. It's not what I would call a beautiful movie. I call it a well made movie though.
maybe artful. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
but even then,
I
it's like usually, I don't know. I don't know this movie.
I I mean as you know, my criticisms aside, it's like this movie was still it had craft behind it. It's kind of weird to say that about the guy who directed the three Hangover movies, to say that he had craft, but like nothing necessarily against well, no, I guess something against Hangover.
Yeah,
I like the first one, and that's about it. He clearly had a perspective. He had a vision. I don't necessarily think it was executed as well as he wanted it, as well as he thinks it probably was, but it was a film. Like I was watching a film that just so happened to be about um, a comic book character, and I think, to me, we need more movies like this. I want more movies to be like this. Marvel can be its own thing. I like the fact that DC can do stuff like this and be, I would say, very successful with it. Um, even though I'm kind of lowballing it, I think in that sense, because I really enjoyed the movie. I think it was just too weak in certain aspects for me to really like try to prop it up more than I think it deserves. But I mean, see it for his performance alone. I mean, like I said, it's a 10 out of 10 performance. He was just incredible.
yeah. It's because it's like you go away from this movie and it's like, what characters can you say you love? Like I love. I don't have
I like the
anyone.
portrayal.
It's like I
I
like
like
how they
I
portray Joker. I do not
I,
like Joker,
yeah.
but
I mean, I liked the his mother. I think she was great too. And I'd also say the same thing for Robert De Niro, because you can tell
right.
that he actually like tried. like like he wasn't just coasting. He didn't like show up to the set and be like, "Yeah, I'm Robert De Niro. I'm
Yeah.
just gonna read my lines."
Well, no, I'm not
Like,
saying like the acting. I'm saying like,
oh yeah, no, I know you're saying that, but I'm saying like I like that they feel like real characters, I guess.
mhm.
Even though, I mean, Robert De Niro plays kind of a sleazy jerk, and
I mean,
ultimately,
I still like
um,
Murray more than I like Joker, though.
well, yeah, because he's not murdering people.
Yeah, but it's like after that, there's no one left at the end of this movie that is like significant enough.
You got little Bruce Wayne. He's
Yeah,
still
little Bruce
alive.
Wayne. Yeah,
He's in the movie for like a whole minute of
yeah.
screen
Where
time,
where
probably.
where Arthur forces his fingers into his mouth and gives him that smile.
That was a little.
So weird.
That was great. That was so awkward.
He even
Yeah.
gets his thumbs in there. Like, God, get out of there. And
Yeah.
then and Bruce Wayne's just taking it. Weird, but I mean, I liked it. Yeah. But yeah, this is tough for me. I think it ultimately comes down to, do I like this more than I liked Extremely Wicked, Shockingly Evil, and Vile, which has a similar vibe to it. We're following this bad dude from his perspective.
hmm
Um, both highly like the quality of the movie is raised a lot by the main actor's portrayal.
hmm
And I think we gave Extremely Wicked, Shockingly Evil, and Vile an 8 out of 10, I believe. So I'm like, I feel like it should be at least 8 out of 10. I
hmm
was stuck between 8 and 8.5 only because it's just so effective.
Yeah.
It's so effective at like just being disturbing, and
Yeah.
you could feel this tension. And I was like actually uncomfortable. It's hard to make me uncomfortable in things. Usually I'm okay with violence and stuff.
hmm
You know, I do violence regularly in my
Yeah.
free time.
That was actually a friend of mine actually texted me after I saw the movie. He's like, "So are you gonna go commit acts of like horrible violence now?" And I was like, "Yep, me and my boys are gonna go out for a night of old fashioned ultra violence."
Hmm. There's just so
That's a
many.
Clockwork Orange reference, by the
I haven't
way.
seen it. I haven't seen that.
I haven't either. I just know that line because it's
You can't make
that's
references.
that's honestly that's a movie we should watch for the channel.
Yeah.
I think that would be great.
Let's just talk about
Also,
all the movies we should watch for the channel right now.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
Let's not.
but there's
So
just
okay, so you're
some weird scenes. There's some disturbing scenes in there too. Like
yeah.
even just the people with the clown faces looking, looking over at him and like grabbing their little hands into the car, pulling them out.
Oh yeah.
That was like,
Oh,
oh,
all the see
weird.
that all of the this movie is shot super well too. I think that's another thing. The cinematography also makes you uncomfortable.
Yeah. So
Good.
ultimately, it's like, ugh. I
Yeah.
don't. I think I'm gonna go with 8 out of 10 because
Okay.
ultimately, can I say it's a beautiful movie if I don't know
You
what we're supposed to take away from this?
I guess
It's
that's
like,
true.
and there's no, I don't know. It's very, it's its own thing. It's really unique.
It,
So
it
it's hard
is, and
to
that's
process.
why I think that's I think a second watch will probably help you.
Hmm.
So yeah. Okay. Here's one last thing before we go. What are your thoughts on like the whole? I've read some really bizarre theories, and I kind of hate all of them. But
Okay.
they all basically say that like the entire end of the movie is just one giant delusion, or even like him being in Gotham, or sorry, him being in Arkham at the end of the movie was supposed to be like that was him delusionally dreaming up the entire movie, and I was like, did you guys
Okay.
watch this? Did you guys watch the same movie I did? Because that is completely misses the point of the movie.
What's the point? I'm still trying to find the
Well,
point.
okay, so like I've said the themes are vague. I think the movie is saying
To treat
these
others with respect, be nice to your
sure,
friends,
sure. I mean, I think
and you won't get killed.
it's hard to articulate without like actually seeing it, or without actually like you almost have to like show it to sort of say, like I mean, I think
That's art for you. But
a little bit.
I'm
I mean,
trying to
like
analyze this art, and I'm not. I can't.
it's I mean, well, it's not saying that it's not pulling a clever like, oh, it was a dream the whole time, because that's just dumb. It's saying something.
Delusion once,
Take
shame
del-
on you. Delusion me
delusions.
twice. Like you don't know. They could have delusioned the whole movie for all we know.
Well, I mean, I think one of the things it's saying is that we need to take better care of the more desolate and distraught people in our communities.
Hmm.
We need to work on mental illness reform. We need to show people that violence isn't the only way out. Um, Particularly people who get involved in gangs, involved in like mob mentality, keeping a closer eye on people that have a tendency towards violent thoughts or violent fantasies or things like that. I think there's enough to glean that the movie is saying something about that. Um,
And you could say
I
that it's like you want to always be nice to your neighbor and treat each other how you want to be
because you'll
treated.
be nice to your neighbor because he'll stalk you and then come into your house and kill you.
Yeah, or if you if you go to visit him with your buddy, if you were nicer, then you're gonna survive. So like the little man,
That work
that's
for
the moral of letting the little man go. Was the name Gary? Something like that.
something like that. That work for a. By the way, this that was also kind of weird. The one of the reviews I watched called it a clown temp agency? Question mark. Well,
Yeah, there's a lot of vague. Just there's kind of just like isolated moments. This
that
movie.
was. I mean, that was like obviously like. I've also heard people compare it. I haven't seen this movie. But I've heard a lot of people compare it to Taxi Driver.
Okay.
Um, and stuff like that was like directly inspired from Taxi Driver because he's a taxi driver, so obviously he's going to get his roots. All those guys are there; they're getting their "here's where you're being a clown for today" thing, which is very strange.
Hmm.
But I mean, you just kind of buy it.
By
You
the
just
way,
kind of go,
why was the little man Gary not
hmm.
more proactive in getting the police on Arthur like as soon as he got out of there? Can you tell me? Can you tell me why he wouldn't? Like as soon as he gets home, call up the police, and make it
Well,
so he does.
he's probably too much in shock.
Yeah, but there was a lot of time between that and then his public appearance on this Murray talk show, which never should have happened. He should not have made it that far.
I don't know.
Like, I
Maybe.
feel like he.
I mean, we
should...
don't know. We don't know. Was it maybe it was 6 o'clock when that happened, right? And then he goes on to the late night show, which is between 8 and 10.
You think you would have heard of that by now and be like, no, we can't let this happen because he's obviously a crazy person who kills people randomly. Now we know this.
I don't know. Maybe the clown, maybe the little clown didn't want the whole clown temp agency to go under because it was his.
At what
it was
cost?
His, yeah, exactly.
The whole city is on fire now.
I don't know. That's overthinking the movie, though.
The whole city's on fire now, but it's also a whole delusion anyway. So. Who knows?
I just think that's such a stupid interpretation.
Well, it could be. Do you
Anyway.
think there will be a sequel to this movie? Do you think this is its own expanded universe now?
I mean, I guess you could probably get a sequel out of this movie. I hope not. I hope it makes enough because to show the studio heads that we like movies like this. But I also hope it doesn't make as much to be like, wow, people really like this. We should make another movie about Joker. We call it Joker 2.
Yeah, and now we have this weird thing going on with there's Suicide Squad over here. And then we have the Harley Quinn movie, Birds of Prey coming out.
Well, this is like an Elseworld story, I guess you could take it. I don't know if DC is gonna say that, but that's to me that's kind of how you could sort of frame this one.
Yeah.
But
all right, so 8 out of 10, 7.5. That gives us a Tarqaron score of 7.75 out of 10.
Woo.
Extremely wicked, shockingly evil, and vile, still on top.
It is. In comparison to these
two movies.
Yeah, so don't let my lower-ish score. I mean, I still really like this movie a lot. Don't let that lower score shy you away because I think it's definitely worth.
No, we've already talked too many spoilers, so we should have had a non-spoiler part in the beginning.
It's true.
Now they can't.
We need to work on that.
I was thinking about that too, and then I was like, oh, we just started talking spoilers anyway, so.
We could tell people, we could warn people with like an edited image to be like, skip ahead to this if you just want to see the score. Except you should watch the whole video, darn you.
Well, yeah, that's why it should be like non-spoilers in the beginning, like general of the movie, what we think of it, should you see it, and then spoilers afterwards. But now it's all spoilers, so only people who can see it, who have seen it, can watch this.
Or people who don't care necessarily.
All right. Well, thanks for watching.
Well, all right.
And
bye-bye.
See you in the next movie or something, eh?